Hey friends, welcome to my channel. We're gonna talk spoons and spoonie stories, so stay tuned. All right, so I've got my liquid spoons, which is my coffee. I got my shirt, which says, "Ain't nobody got spoons for that." Both of these were given to me by a dear friend of mine who is also a spoonie. I want to talk a little bit about what is a spoonie, my life as a spoonie. I feel like that could be a reality show, maybe. So this is inspired by the readathon, the Spoonie readathon that Emily at Novels and Kat at Brews and Reviews they're doing a Spoonie readathon this month. And it's talking about disability and people who have disabilities and deal with it on a daily basis. So first off, let's talk about the spoon theory. I have notes because if I don't have notes, I will go off on tangents, and this can't be a forever long video. I may do this as a series. If y'all have additional questions or things change for me, I may come back and talk more about it at a later date. Who knows? So the Spoonie theory was written by Christine Masrandino. She's a woman who has lupus and fibromyalgia, and she came up with it in the early 2000s as a way to explain the limits of energy, whether it be physical and or mental energy, that people with chronic illnesses have. This is originally, it was specific to chronic illnesses, but I think it's been applied to many other aspects of disability because it's relatable for a lot of people. The theory basically is a metaphor using spoons like we use every day to eat as a limited unit of energy, like I said, physical or mental energy. And those spoons have to be used for daily activities of daily living. Getting up in the morning, getting dressed, or taking a shower, brushing your teeth, making your food, those type of things. And when you have a chronic illness, sometimes you don't have the same amount of spoons you had a previous day for whatever reason. Sometimes for no reason that you know of. Just saying. In that, along came coined the term spoonie to refer to a person who deals with that on a daily basis. I am a spoonie. I want to tell you a little bit about my experience with chronic illness. So continuing my spoonie story, I will say that you'll notice the difference between the beginning of this video and now, because I was actually having a really bad flare the day that I filmed the other portion of the video. And a flare for me looks like exhaustion, brain fog. If you can kind of tell from the video, sometimes I lose my train of thought or forget words. That is very common with conditions that cause brain fog and extreme exhaustion. You get brain tired. And so I wanted to continue the story in a more coherent way got a virus, just, like a virus that is typical with kids. I did not get it as a child, so when I somehow got exposed to it as an adult, I caught it. And for whatever reason, it responded to treatment, but anytime I came off that treatment, which at the time, I think it was just antibiotics, and then we added steroids in as it was persistent. And what we thought was the virus continuing to be persistent in my body, it was actually my immune system was overreacting and to everything that was going on. And I ended up, it took a lot of time, a lot of steroids. It's very common for people with chronic illnesses that can't be seen on a medical test, any kind of diagnostic procedure that's accepted in Western medicine. There's a lot of things that can't be caught by that. And I had normal tests, but I had symptoms, physical symptoms. I had low-grade fevers. And so I ended up at a rheumatologist, and I'm condensing 3 years of symptoms, a lot of doctor's appointments, a lot of tests, and a lot of steroids to keep myself functioning. I ended up at a rheumatologist who confirmed the diagnosis, my autoimmune disorder, and fibromyalgia. My main symptoms were like random low-grade fevers, fatigue, pain on a daily basis, and like an achiness, morning stiffness, those kind of things. So from the rheumatologist, I ended up on some treatments that the side effects were pretty intense, and so we kind of had to play around with things. I definitely felt like a guinea pig with what'll work, what'll not work, and still trying to figure out how to maintain some quote normalcy of life with, I was working full time. I was in my late 20s, early 30s, single, trying to have a social life. And I was very involved in animal rescue, had my own dogs, like just trying to still have some quality of life. And maintained kind of a basic during the week. I would go to work, and when I got home, I would take the dogs out for a little walk, however much I could. And then I would have to rest and nap in the evenings. And so it was really hard to do any kind of socializing in the evenings. On the weekends, this is where the spoons come in, right? So there were things that I needed to do. I lived in a fairly small apartment, so, trying to clean the apartment would be a couple of spoons, or doing laundry, walking the dogs, going out. I really, you kind of had to maneuver in your head what was worth going out for, if that makes sense. It was, okay, if I'm going to go for a cup of coffee with a friend, it's going to be not a lot of crowd, just whoever else is in the coffee shop. I can be sitting down, don't have to talk a lot unless, I feel like it. Or was I going to a concert where I would be standing up the whole time, and did I have the spoons for that? So that was kind of the negotiation that I had to do for myself and figure out how much energy I could expend. I stayed kind of in that realm for a number of years, and through varying levels. There was definitely times when my autoimmune disorder would recur and I would have to be on high doses of steroids, which if you've ever been on high doses of steroids, for me, the side effects are pretty intense. It's kind of agitation, like a restlessness, insomnia, which does not help when you have chronic fatigue, just like an edginess, and you just kind of had to go with the flow. You had to learn how to do that, and I was bad at it. I kind of fought it. So I stayed in that place for a good while. In 2017, I became my mom's full-time caregiver. She had received a terminal diagnosis, and my dad had already passed away. And kind of took on the stress of being a full-time caregiver. If you know, you know. It's a lot. And we then had the pandemic come, and my mom and I stayed pretty isolated because she was high risk. I was higher risk. She was highest risk. I was kind of the bottom end of high risk group just because of my autoimmune disorder. So we really weren't exposed to much at all. And randomly in 2021, I got ringworm. No idea how I got it. My animals didn't have it. My mom didn't have it. My doctor thinks it was right around August, September. And in the South, we have a lot of humidity, and like the leaves have started to fall, but the temperatures haven't dropped a lot. So it's humidity and leaves on the ground, and I got it on my ankle. So that's kind of, I was a notorious flip-flop wearer in the backyard. So my doctor kind of felt like that was probably how I got it. And both her and I thought, okay, no big deal. We'll just, treat this, keep it, make sure nobody else gets it, and move on, right? I ended up experiencing a fatigue crash that I now know was a ME crash, my first ME crash, which is myalgic encephalomyelitis, more commonly known as chronic fatigue syndrome. I'm not a big fan of chronic fatigue syndrome, though I will use it because that's what people know it as. Chronic fatigue syndrome, to me, implies that fatigue is the only thing that's chronic, and that is not the case. Most of the time, people who have ME have a lot of other symptoms. It's not just fatigue. That just kind of seems like the most reported, talked about, impactful symptom. It was a fatigue I'd never felt before, and I remember describing it to my doctor as like, I knew at that point, I think I had had my autoimmune disorder and fibromyalgia for like 10 years. And I told her, I know what that fatigue feels like. I know what I'd gotten to the point where I could recognize fatigue from the autoimmune disorder and fatigue from fibromyalgia. I could kind of discern. This was a fatigue I'd never felt before. I ended up having heart palpitations, dizziness, and it went on to the point where, for being a caregiver to my mom, it was really challenging. And thankfully, if we can say anything good came out of the pandemic, I was already working remotely. I don't think I would have been able to maintain my job, which my job was part-time. But it was hard for me to even get on the computer as much as I needed to. My boss was really understanding, which is, he's still my boss now, and very understanding. And then just in that process, after having that first crash in September of 2021, kind of went on a downhill of mental health as well. I had one of my dogs that I had had for 12 years passed away. A couple weeks later, my mom passed away. All of that, I think, combined with getting sick from the ringworm, just led to really poor health. And I knew, kind of had the suspicion that after I was my mom's caregiver for 5 years, I just had a feeling that I would get sick after she passed away, just because of all that stress and then having it completely gone. When my dad had passed away, we had 3 weeks of very intense, he was at the hospital, intense stress, running back and forth to a hospital that wasn't close to us, but still wanting to see him every day. After he passed away, my mom and I both got sick. I think I got pneumonia, and I can't remember what she got, but it was just the accumulation of stress. So if you've ever experienced that, I'm sure you can relate. After my mom passed away, my autoimmune disorder, which had been fairly quiet for a number of years, recurred, and I ended up on more steroids. When I came off the steroids, it was kind of just a whirlwind of grief and dealing with my mom's estate, and everything that happens when you lose someone very close to you. And I do think that just the whole circumstances of from getting the ringworm to that year, I was very tired. That whole of 2022, I feel like I slept a lot. At the end of 2022, for Christmas, my whole family got COVID, and that was my first COVID infection, and where others in my family recovered in a week or 2 weeks. I think some of the cough and things lingered for them. It took me about 4 months to recover, feel like I was recovering from the cough and the congestion and the shortness of breath. The fatigue has not completely gone, and I don't know if I will get all of my pre-COVID functioning back. And I also don't know, my doctor and I have this conversation, that is it ME because ME plus the COVID, and the COVID made my ME worse, or is it long COVID? Because long COVID does look like it's ME, myalgic encephalomyelitis. They have a lot of similarities, and it all has a lot of similarities. And at this point, which I definitely can relate and empathize with people who are searching for diagnoses. For me, I kind of know sort of what my body's doing in the individualized sense. Definitely immune system related, because I can tell when I get colds, it takes me longer to get over them. When I've done a lot of physical exertion, I have periods of extreme fatigue, brain fogginess, pain, things like that. I'm hopeful. A lot of the treatments that the medical community has for the type of chronic illnesses that I have are really symptom focused. They're to treat the symptom. A lot of times they also cause a lot of side effects, which can be worse than the original symptom. So you kind of have to just juggle that with your doctor and medical providers to see what works. And for me, I'm on a fairly limited medication system that works for me. I do get a few, I guess they would be called alternative treatments. I get infusions twice a month that are not covered by insurance. And I'm very thankful that I'm able to do that with the job that I have now. I also have a great job, can work from home most of the time, and have an understanding boss, which I know is not the norm, unfortunately. In the US, a lot of times that doesn't happen. So that's kind of my Spoonie story. One of the things that I love about the bookish community on YouTube and on Instagram is that it's kept me company through a lot of the times when I am kind of limited to my house or my bed, where my fatigue and pain have been so great that I can't go out and do things. I try in-person meetings. I think I've mentioned on here before, I did try an in-person book club. That book club specifically didn't work out as a whole. It stopped meeting. And then I continually am looking around to see what other things I can do. For me, and I talk to my doctor about this a lot, for me, it's about quality of life. Weighing treatment options with quality of life. And I can say wholeheartedly that the online community has improved my quality of life at home. I started watching BookTube during the pandemic when it first started. I couldn't go anywhere or really interact with my friends like a lot of us couldn't because of my mom's health. And then when my health went downhill after she passed away, I still had those connections, and I'm very thankful for this community. And I appreciate you watching this. I know sometimes I can go off on tangents, so I'm going to try. It might be a little bit choppy, but I'm going to try my best to make this video flow. One of the things that I'm hoping is, before we had COVID come about, research into fibromyalgia, myalgic encephalomyelitis, ME. It took me a long time to learn how to say that word. It was few and far between. And because of COVID and because so many people are affected by long COVID, the research and the awareness of the medical community, I think, is increasing, and I'm very hopeful that something will emerge that will be beneficial for people who have had it previously or have other conditions. So I think that's all I wanted to share. If you have questions, please leave in the comments below. I may or may not answer them depending on, I'm pretty open about my health journey. So thank you for hanging out and listening to my story, and I hope that you will join in for the Spoonie Readathon. Like I said, this is all inspired by Emily at Novels and Kat at Brews and Reviews. I will link their channels below, and just to participate, all you have to do is read a book about a person with a disability, and that's it. Like, you can follow the prompts, you can just read a book. It's great when people talk about diversifying their reading. Please include disability in that discussion. And yeah, I'll talk to you soon. Bye.